All right, so let's move on. Listen, tight end, whatever you may call it, this dude's not a tight end. Kyle Pitts, tight end, questionable mark, right? From Florida, 6'6", 240. Every single video that I have seen from this guy, he is catching a pass 20 yards downfield. That is not something that you see tight ends do very often.
And it's always on the outside,
it's
too.
Always on the outside.
Rarely
right?
in the middle.
He never starts on the edge. He always starts like he's running in the slot. And
but
then
to be fair,
20
we're only
downfield.
watching the highlights. He might line up in the middle, but that's not where his best plays are. So
Yeah, most definitely. With that being said, I mean, he is a talent not to be taking lightly in this draft. He will be going soon. I don't see him making it out of the top 8. With that being said, Atlanta, according to CBS, is picking him with the number 4 overall pick. A couple of weeks ago, we had thought that Atlanta might go running back in this situation, but who knows? With an aging Julio Jones and a rising star in Calvin Ridley, that pairing might be nice. NFL has him going at number 7 to the Arizona Cardinals, which I think is a much more appetizing option.
So obviously that would be a trade.
Kyle Pitts. Yes, it would be a trade. So I just think that this guy towers over defenders. He catches a lot of balls that are up in the air, a lot of balls that are 20 yards downfield. I mean, he's a wide receiver in a tight end body, right? He's like a power forward, basically. I love Arizona for that reason. They don't really have a cemented tight end. I think their last one that was even relevant, and he wasn't even relevant, he was just number 1 on the depth chart, was Rodney Seale-Jones. He didn't do much of anything last year. They bring in A.J. Green to help alongside DeAndre Hopkins. But I think there's a big gaping hole there. And who can fill a big gaping hole? A big dude, right? Like Kyle Pitts. I just think it's really good. I think he can fit into this offense, and I think Kyler Murray can get him going right out of the gates. What are your thoughts, Jake?
So, like I said, and you're using a mock draft where they place him making a trade. That's fair. I didn't consider trades, but the thought of him on the Cardinals scares the hell out of me for multiple reasons, because there's not really a secondary target there who's going to consume all these targets.
Exactly.
Right? So if they do get him somehow, he's going to be a target monster, because he could go to somewhere like Cincinnati, Dallas, where he's not going to get as many targets as he would if he goes to Arizona.
Yeah.
But being that I said, I'm going to just go with the board of how it is now. I have the Miami Dolphins taking him with the 6th pick, and that is why I have Jamar Chase falling to number 7. And they could go either way. I think if Miami doesn't take him, Detroit could take him. But I'm going with what I chose, which is Miami. And here's my thinking. At first, I used to think like, okay, Detroit or Miami can't take him. He's a tight end. They have a tight end. But I'm like, you can't think like that. It's a league where, first of all, you can play 2 tight end sets. Look at the Patriots, who they just signed this offseason, and what they've done in the past. You can play both of them. Injuries happen.
Baltimore Ravens, they've done it the last 2 years.
Gesicki lines up in the slot sometimes, like as a receiver. He's very receiver-esque type tight end as well. So you can line them both up. And the thing for me is, yes, Jamar Chase would get open a lot and provide a lot of things for Tua, but Kyle Pitts is so big. Like, I think Tua needs a Kyle Pitts, because Burrow doesn't need a Kyle Pitts to put up numbers for him to look good, to get the offense moving.
No.
Tua might need a Kyle Pitts in order to do that. So what I'm guessing is, I think because a lot of people are saying that Pitts is the most talented, other than Trevor Lawrence, that Pitts is the most talented player in this draft. So if you think that he's a generational player like that, look, Chase is great, but is he this huge, like the Calvin Johnson of tight ends? Probably not. Or he's a wide receiver, but you know what I mean? So I think that it's going to go, Pitts to Miami and then Chase to the Lions. And simply because, look, it just makes too much sense. He went to Florida. He's just going to go to Miami. And I could just see it. The Dolphins are a really good team. That would put them over the top, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would make them a force to be reckoned with. And more importantly, what you said, it gives Tua another option. Really a second year where a lot of fantasy experts, including myself, I don't consider myself a fantasy expert just yet, but I like to think I had the confidence to do so. They don't really have fantasy. I mean, they don't really have Tua as a fantasy option this year. He's a streamer at best, week in and week out. But the more weapons you give him, the more tantalizing that option becomes. I like it. So I definitely hope it happens. Referencing back to Arizona, I would love to see that happen via trade. Obviously, it gets a little crazy.
And I was going to say, I didn't finish earlier. Because they're in the Niners with the division with the Niners, I would just hate that if he went to Arizona.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's likely not to happen. So, hey, guess what? You probably won't see it. But I think that's it for Kyle Pitts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know last week I mentioned that no matter where he goes, he's going to succeed, and you tend to disagree with that. Do you still feel that way?
I have long been with the notion that it takes tight ends quite a bit of time to develop in terms of fantasy potential, right? TJ Hawkinson showed flashes very, very rarely in his rookie season. Last year, he showed up a little bit more.
Week 1, remember, he got a big game and then did nothing the rest of the year.
Did nothing the rest of the season. But sophomore season, he came back. He's a little bit more. And now he's being looked at as a top 5 option. You can say the same thing for quite a few other guys. I don't think Kyle Pitts fits the tight end mold of what we've seen in the past. I think he's different. I think if you were to compare him to anybody like this, you compare him to someone like Jordan Reed, who, yes, we know him as a often injured type of guy. But coming into the NFL, Jordan Reed was something different. He was something of a freak of nature at his position. And I think Kyle Pitts is above that on many different ways, and I think he can succeed right away in the NFL. So, yes, maybe I've backed off.
Hey, I'm not going to lie to you. That is the best comparison I've heard yet, because Kyle Pitts is hard to compare players to, right? And if you look at Jordan Reed, tall dude, 6'2", long, lengthy, if he stayed healthy, he would have been just a juggernaut at the position. So that's the best comparison I've heard yet. And I told you I listened to like 4 or 5 football podcasts today, so good job, man.
Shout outs to Jordan Reed on his retirement, by the way.